Hello again, guys. So I've had a very busy week so far. Hasn't really given me a lot of time to make videos, which is kind of annoying. But I'm going to make a quick one today anyway, because I want to sort of keep up a bit of consistency. I wanted to talk a little bit about electric cars, because it's something that I am really interested in, actually. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the internal combustion engine, don't get me wrong. I love engines in all their forms. But at the same time, I do love technology, and I do really love the idea of electric vehicles. And the thing I love most about it is the potential reliability, because when it comes to an internal combustion engine, be it in a car, motorcycle, whatever, it has a lot of moving parts and a lot of complexity, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Even in something as simple as this, that's a single cylinder air-cooled engine, very simple, as few moving parts as possible, but it's still got quite a few. Whereas an electric motor has one, which is obviously quite good. The other thing I really love about it is the fact that it's much more efficient in the way it puts the power down. So if you imagine my bike right now, in order to get the power from the engine down onto the road, it has to go through a gearbox, through all the gears, through the chain, onto the wheel, and then onto the road. So there's a lot of components there where the power can be sapped away. Whereas again, obviously with an electric motor, the motor is directly connected to the wheel, so you get rid of all of that stuff in the middle, which is far more efficient. The other thing about it is that with a petrol or diesel engine, they have to spin up to a certain RPM before they have their maximum torque, their maximum power. Again, with an electric motor, you don't have this. You literally have 100% of it right from the word go. So naturally, they're going to be faster accelerating, they're going to be smoother, they're going to have less to go wrong because less components and everything else, which is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But there are a couple of disadvantages at the moment that I can see. Now, the first disadvantage is one from a power point of view, because obviously if we all start driving around in electric vehicles, we're going to have to start producing more power. Now, just to chuck some figures out there, the UK currently produces around about 5% more power than we actually use, which is a very tiny amount. You know, that's not much extra power at all, really. By comparison, the United States produces about 15% less than they use, so obviously a certain amount has to be imported. Now, if you imagine, if that's already the case, UK is only just producing a tiny bit more than we use at this moment in time by like a hair's breadth, and the US is already using more than they actually produce. If we all suddenly start riding and driving around in electric cars and bikes and stuff, where's that extra power going to come from? You know, we would have to invest a hell of a lot more money in renewable energies and other forms of energy production in order to make up for the demand, because that would be quite a sudden increase in demand, and potentially the infrastructure to supply that demand would take a good number of years to actually get into place. Not to mention, obviously, installing more charging stations. I mean, I know they're installing them in quite a few places now anyway, but you know, there's a lot of work to be done before that is a viable thing. So the other thing is obviously range. A lot of the electric cars, even the high-end ones, are still only going about 130 miles on a sort of charge. You know, some of them may be a bit more. I've heard of around 200 odd, but it's still not a huge range. And to be honest, that's absolutely fine, because especially with the Teslas and the Nissans and all that lot, they do actually, the cars themselves on the sat-navs, if you plan a journey and that journey is longer than your range, they will actually plan stops for you to charge up your car. But the thing is you've got to bear in mind that you've got to add extra time onto your journey. to stop and charge up for X amount of time. So at the minute, until battery technology gets just that little bit better, they're not really ready yet, because it's all about storing energy, and batteries are not very efficient at storing energy. Storing energy in the form of petrol or diesel in a tank is still, at this current moment in time, the most efficient way of doing it, because you can store a lot more energy, like, you know, in a tank of fuel than you can in a battery. But yeah, so that's obviously that. I mean, but these are things that I can see will be improved eventually. I mean, right now, in my mind, it, especially with the amount of electricity we're currently producing, the majority of people driving around in electric cars is just not sustainable right now. I'm not saying it won't ever be, I'm just saying we've got a long way to go before we can get to that stage. And this really ties into their plans for sort of 2040. The whole thing of, you know, petrol cars and diesel cars will stop being sold after a certain point, and everyone will be buying like hybrids and electrics. Now, the hybrids are okay, they're good, but you know, unless the infrastructure catches up, it's going to be quite interesting to see how that works. So then, the only other disadvantage I can see is actually people driving the cars, because the first thing you've got to bear in mind is they're silent, which is lovely. I mean, I've been for a ride in an electric car, and there is something quite peaceful and serene about gliding along in complete silence. However, from the point of view of pedestrians and people like that, if you're coming a bit too fast around a corner and they're on a pedestrian crossing or something, they're not going to hear you coming. I mean, I know a lot of cars are quite quiet at the minute anyway, but at least with an engine you've got a certain amount of noise still being produced, so you've got some chance at least of hearing it coming. Whereas, I mean, especially if it's going faster, because as you go faster in a petrol or a diesel, they tend to make a bit more noise. Obviously, in an electric car, it doesn't matter how fast you're going, it's always going to make no noise. Now, obviously, this isn't completely true. You still get tyre noise, obviously the tyres on the road, but the actual engine itself is completely silent. So that's a bit of a problem. The only other problem I can see is the power they produce, because going back to what I was saying about the electric motors producing all of their power right from the off, that basically means that even the most basic electric cars can accelerate quite fast, and especially if you're the sort of person that's inclined to have a heavy foot, and I know that, you know, there are some of you out there, and I'm not saying I'm an angel. I mean, you know, give me a powerful car, every now and again I'll want to stick my foot on the accelerator and feel myself being thrown back in the seat, but you know, if you've got that power available to you and you're tempted to drive like that anyway, in an electric car, I don't know, for some reason I can just imagine there being a lot more accidents where people are driving more aggressively. And you know, I think also because when you drive aggressively with a car, the car sounds aggressive as well, and you can kind of, you know that you're going a bit too fast, whereas in an electric car you can be aggressive with it, but it'll still sound like you're just, you know, you won't necessarily feel like you're going that fast. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, that's how I tend to feel. Like if I'm in a car that's revving really low or is not making much noise but it's going really fast, I don't feel like I'm going that fast, so I'm tempted to push it that little bit more. I mean, I'm not saying I'm tempted, I generally drive like a granddad, but you get what I mean. It's just, I can see that being a potential issue. But at the end of the day, none of these things are deal breakers for the electric car. There's certainly a lot of work to be done, but I'm very excited, you know, to see what happens in the future. And in actual fact, I'm also particularly excited about the evolution of electric motorcycles. You know, electric bikes and scooters are definitely something that appeals to me, and I'll be very interested to, you know, when they start coming out, you know, bringing out more models, I'll be very interested to go test ride some, because again, like, there's a lot of people out there, especially with motorbikes, that will go, no, you can't have an electric motorbike, you've got to have petrol bike and it's got to be geared and everything else, but actually the idea of a fully automatic electric motorcycle really does interest me. And they already exist, you know, there are already several that exist, but I'll be very keen to see what the sort of mainstream models look like, because a lot of the ones now, they're sort of, you know, a bit quirky, you know, like the Zero motorcycles and things like that. There's something a bit different, something new and a bit executive. No, well, not executive, they're exclusive, they're a bit different. They're not quite mainstream yet. And that's what I want to see. I want to see like the mainstream commuters and sports bikes and the everyday bikes, see what they sort of end up looking like. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, I am going to go have a little play in the woods up here, I think. And for now, if you did like this video, as always, please do give it a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. And for now, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys again soon.